Welcome to the Buchanan Report, this 13th day of March, 2018. My name is Ivan Buchanan, and I am your host, and my co-host is always Ron Hanks and Rhonda Moon Lane. If you're joining us for the first time, our call-in number is 347-857-1710. Again, that number, 347-857-1710. And for those of you that call in, let's try to keep it as clean as we can. Our guest tonight is whistleblower Keith Hansford regarding further corruption out of Bay Pines VA Hospital. But before we get to him, as we always do, I want to remind everyone of the BuchananReport.com. That's our website, thebuchananreport.com. Tons of information there. Attorney section, I'm working with an individual right now, got him hooked up with an attorney regarding a med mal issue. Looking very good here. Hope everything works out for the gentleman. Tons of other tabs on there to click. We have suicide prevention numbers. We've got our store on there to where you can buy a t-shirt or a hoodie. That would greatly help us. Cost a lot of money and time here. So any help you can give us, we'd certainly appreciate it. That, and I heard too, I don't know if you guys heard this or not. We all have our different contacts and all of that, but Rhonda, did you hear that Dr. Shulkin may be gone here?
Yes, just a little while ago I did.
Yeah, Rick Perry.
Videos on Facebook that were very uncomplimentary, shall we call it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Pete Hegseth can get in there now.
Well, apparently Rick Perry is supposed to be the one, from what I'm hearing. Supposed to. I don't know what Rick Perry's going to do.
I was going to say, is he even a veteran?
I don't know. I know that he backed that one guy. Oh, I forget. He lives in Texas, not the American Sniper, but the other guy. He did a movie on. He got out. I forget his name.
Oh yeah, Lone Survivor.
Yeah, Lone Survivor.
Yeah.
I guess he was the 47th governor of Texas. Yes, I have Wikipedia open in front of me.
Whoopee.
I just don't. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a good fit for me. For some reason, I don't know. So
I don't know that he has anything to do with veterans, military. Let's see. He was in the Air Force. He was completed pilot training in 1974. He was a C-130 pilot at Dyess Air Force Base. And he had 2-month overseas rotations at the RAF Middenhall.
Yeah.
So, yes, he was in the Air Force.
Oh, he chasing UFOs, was he?
Yes. It looks like for about 4 years. He went in 72, got out in 77 with the rank of captain, returned to Texas, and went into business farming cotton with his father. And then he went into politics.
Yeah,
then he went into farming Texas. Yeah, farming Texans now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that Shulkin, if it's true, I'm glad to hear Shulkin's gone. But I don't know. I think that's smart. It seems to me that other people are better qualified. Man, what a job to take. Wow.
I don't know that I would take that job.
Considering the cleanup that's going to have to be done to make any kind of reforms, I wouldn't wish it on somebody I didn't even like.
I agree. But apparently it's on every channel right now, CNN, USA, that they're all saying the same thing. So
saying what? Shulkin's out?
That Shulkin's out, and they're looking at Rick Perry.
Oh, okay.
first thing that
Yeah, I
comes
heard
to
that
mind to me
way earlier today. So.
Yeah, I heard it just before we went on the air.
Wow.
And I wasn't going to say anything until I Googled.
Well, no, you did. I made you Google.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't take much for that, though. He can't do any worse than the last couple of them. They're still bumped and bruised.
It'll be another 2-3 weeks before you're back in training.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
All right,
well,
I got one today.
It for me, so.
Buffalo VA Medical Center. How many times have we talked about them? Oh, maybe not specifically Buffalo, but New York. There's like 3 or 4 different facilities there, and they're always talking about them. I got an OIG report today. The facility director is the one that contacted the OIG to report that a registered nurse found a patient unresponsive and did not call a code because she feared CPR would traumatize the patient's body.
Oh, Jesus.
This was a nurse?
Is she still employed?
This was a nurse. This is a registered nurse, an RN1.
Really?
She actually called in a respiratory therapist, and they came to that decision between them, and they just announced the patient dead, which influenced others to not take action. So they just let him die.
Yeah.
And the OIG did. They said, yes, it did happen.
I don't think they have the credentials to pronounce somebody dead, do they?
No, I think probably what they are talking about when others ran into the room, they said, oh, he's already dead. They didn't call a code, and they just kind of basically ignored it. And the OIG did find it. That's exactly what happened.
I'd expect that from my wife
here,
if it was me laying there, but...
Clear down at the bottom, it said the OIG found that the facility staff failed to preserve the patient's telemetry data. So all of the monitors that were on him, they deleted the data.
Right. Get rid of the evidence.
That's suspect.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Well,
the OIG...
Yeah, I mean, if your wife would have run in, that's the first thing she would have said anyway.
Yeah, he looks dead to me. Let him be.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's about time.
That's horrible. That's horrible. I mean,
that doesn't show any professionalism at all.
No, it doesn't. And then the facility leaders did not remove the involved staff from direct patient care or conduct an administrative investigative board, submit an issue brief. So all they did is turn it over to the OIG. And that was the facility director.
Like they tried sweeping it under the rug to me.
That's what I thought.
Well, one individual turned it over to the OIG, right?
Yeah, it was the director that actually turned it over.
Are they going to call him a whistleblower?
I guess they should.
You think they'll come on the show?
I can try to find them. There's no names here. This report just came out today, but I can probably find them.
Yeah, well, you can try, but you know it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't have to type to do that. I can do that.
Get tired of hunting second, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Typing that way just takes too long.
Okay.
My other one, me and Ron were talking before we went on the air, and we both had this article in front of us. The Veterans Home gunman in, what city was it? It was California. He killed the 3 ladies.
Napa Valley.
Yeah, Napa Valley. Yeah, 4 brave Americans died that day. Jennifer Golick was the clinical director. Christine Lober is the executive director. And Jennifer Gonzalez was a clinical psychologist. the gunman's adopted brother, I guess he was adopted, said that he had talked to him. He had lived there at that facility for a year, and then he got thrown out for threatening the therapist. That's what they're saying he got thrown out for. And after that, he told his adopted brother that he wanted to get back at them, but he never said he was going to kill them.
Well, when you stop and think about this, okay, the organization that he centered upon is working out of that VA home.
Yes.
And they're a nonprofit. That's who he was after. And they're dealing primarily with people with PTSD. So there's probably a lot more to be told there than we're actually hearing. And I blame a lot of that on the picking and choosing of the media.
Exactly.
I mean, if you stop to think about it, a PTSD person is liable to blurt out a threat like that out of total frustration than anyone else, number one. And then you've got your zero tolerance policies there.
Exactly.
Look at Mr. Toombs' son. He was, 5 minutes late for a meeting. They have a zero tolerance policy. They threw him out and sat out there and committed suicide. This is the exact opposite of the spectrum in terms of what he did, but it's still the same thing. The only person I could think of was Melanie, Mama Bear. I'm sure she's got the same policy, but in some of our interviews with her, I know she has used her personal investigation in account of what took place. I know she's given some people a second chance, and I really strongly think that needs to be there somehow.
I agree.
There are exceptions to everything. So.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I know tolerance is a good policy, especially considering some of the people you're dealing with, but yeah, if you can determine that, okay, there's one more chance and this is it, you're done. If you can impress that upon them, because look at all the ones she gets that are sent to her by judges, and she's got to sit there and tell them, okay, this is a zero tolerance thing. You blow it off, you've blown a lot off.
And I think the security at these facilities, he'd been there a year, so it's an off-campus apartment complex. But they've got to have some kind of security there. I know that they're unarmed because it says in one of the articles that they're again sending it to the legislature and trying to get that changed. But he actually snuck into a going-away party that all those women were at. That's where he found them. So that's not a secure area. Yeah,
and he did some picking and choosing as who he held for hostage, which tells me that he had people in mind that he wanted to retaliate against. It's sad to say.
Yes.
But but it's also an indication of where he was at. I mean, he could have kept them all there.
Right. And, we see that they either, like John Toombs, he left, or he got kicked out, and he went and committed suicide. And I don't know how many stories I've seen of veterans that have been shot by the police after they've been called for something, one thing or another. So it always ends badly.
Or shot them out, shot themselves out in the driveway and not even been noticed.
Right. Or lit themselves on fire. It happens too much.
It has the whole spectrum in there, and there is. I'm not seeing an answer, but something's got to be there.
I agree, and it's just happening too often. And, of course, everybody went to the gun laws. Every story I found had to...
Big, easy deal.
That's what they're all centered on. Now, this is in California. California has very restrictive gun laws.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah, they do.
I know he had... a background check. You can't carry a gun in the same area you're in. The bullets have to be separate. It has to be in a case, locked in the trunk. So I don't see that any laws are going to change this. It has to be in how we respond to these veterans when we know just doing this, even in the VA hospital,
Right.
the veteran gets upset, he raises his voice, and it escalates. They don't de-escalate the situation anymore.
It doesn't even have to happen there. They have a law right now on the books. Yep. We even discussed this. If you have a family member that feels that you're going to be a threat, they can go to a judge and they can come into your home and confiscate your weapons for at least 90 days.
Yeah. And his adopted brother said that he had told him he was making threats. He wanted to get even with them. He didn't say anything about shooting and killing them. But if that brother would have said something beforehand,
yes,
something may have been able to be done. I don't know, but something's got to change. That's all I had.
Okay. I think the biggest part of it that bothers me, that I keep going back to, is all it does is give credibility to Dianne Feinstein's statement that all veterans are mentally ill and shouldn't be allowed to own weapons. I mean,
I remember that.
Yeah.
But this program has graduated 400 veterans.
Right.
So it's a successful program. It works, but there's got to be some changes made.
Yeah.
Well, nothing's 100% perfect, and
no.
Oh no.
You know, sad part is people like Feinstein will try to grab onto this grain of rice and, you know, try to make something out of it, and as most politicians do. And
yeah.
I got to shut up. I'll get going. So.
Yeah. I know, me too.
Well, that was the only item I really had, other than today is the day in 1942 when the Canine Corps was started for World War II.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They sure have done a lot of good things, canines.
Yes, they have.
A lot. I wonder how many soldiers, when you know, the lives they've saved, you know, to present. I mean, it's got to be a horrendous amount.
Well, considering the recognition that they get, you'd have to go to the soldiers to actually get that answer.
Yeah. Yeah, but God, you know, it's a big number.
Oh, yes.
So I'm on Facebook right now, and we was talking about Camp Conklin Bravo Base before we went on the air. They're doing one of the youth programs is building a tiny house there now.
Right.
I don't know if they plan to build more because, you know, up till now it's all been in tents.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about
what
3/4 of the way done.
How are they doing out of they've reopened Phoenix, right? How is that doing?
Phoenix, I don't think they still have found a place to put it. When they find veterans up there, they give them the option of coming down here to Bravo Base. I know they're working on it. How many bases have they had up there? I think 5 so far, and it's just they haven't found a site like they have now down here in Bravo Base.
Yeah.
Hopefully they find one.
I thought they had found one and was reopening, so.
I did see
we need
something
to stay
about
on
that.
top of that.
Yeah. Well, Camp Conklin has an open house the 22nd of every month. So I'm going to share this to our Facebook page. You guys can go and look at the tiny houses there.
What, all 2 fingers that you have available?
Yep. At least they're the 2 for the mouse.
Okay. got any more?
Nope, I'm done.
That's all I have.
Okay. Then we're going to take a short break. This is the Buchanan Report radio show. When we come back, we will be speaking with whistleblower Keith Hansford regarding further corruption at the Bay Pines VA Hospital. We'll be back here in just one moment.
You are listening to the Buchanan Report radio show. Our guest tonight is whistleblower Keith Hansford. Keith is a veteran struggling internally with the VA for rights for other veterans and the founder of the Bay Pines Exposed Facebook page. How are you doing tonight, Keith?
Doing all right.
Good.
I had a big day.
I was going to say, speaking of your page, you posted something today, so let's start with that. Do you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I headed out first thing this morning and set up a couple of my signs. I had professionally made signs done, and these were to. Interestingly enough, in your intro, you were talking about zero tolerance.
Yes.
Well, the VA is supposed to have zero tolerance for sexual harassment, yet the assistant police chief at the Bay Pines VA facility has paid out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars for his repeated sexual harassment, and yet he still has his job. So which is it, zero tolerance, or you can do these things over and over and maintain your job?
Right.
The female officer that he was sexually harassing was married to another VA police officer. They were both Air Force veterans, and when they went to Bay Pines management to try and get relief from this sexual harassment, it fell on deaf ears. Nothing was done. In fact, they took her off of patrol where she could get in her car and get away from him, and moved her, after she complained about him, moved her and put her in an office right next to his. So they just compounded the problem.
Right.
And it took a toll on their relationship, their marriage, their family. To get away from him, she had to flee from sunny Florida to South Dakota. And
wow.
Her husband, 37-year-old Air Force vet, wound up committing suicide. And the family, her husband's sister, mother, and his widow all adamantly think that it was because of the stress that his sexual harassment put on them. So
I can see
I
that.
I was out there this morning with my signs. We have begun a process down here to bring the pain to Bay Pines. I started out. I've been seeing a psychologist since 2011. After
well, hold on a second. Before we get into that, I want to tell us. You posted something about, I believe, the chief of police. Deputy chief of police there. An incident that he was involved in. Could you tell us about that? Because you just posted that today, I believe.
Yeah, I was out there with the signs complaining about his sexual harassment, and he still has his job. And it's stressful for me to be on the Bay Pine side of the road, so I typically go over, I post the signs, and I come back across the street and wait in my truck. I have a service dog. He waits with me. And that way I'm in compliance with DOD, or Department of Transportation, regulations that you can't post signs and then leave them. As long as you're still present, it's okay. So, again, I'm a rule follower, so I do that. Well, this morning, I see a golf cart pull up, two ladies, very nicely dressed. They were administrators from Bay Pines. They come out, they take some pictures of the signs, and then they start taking them down. So I went out to this edge of the road and hollered over to them, you can't take those down. They were off Bay Pines property. They were out along the sidewalk. And they were, they were adamant they were going to take those signs down. So I walk over, and they're telling me that the signs are illegal, that they're, that they've got to come down because their job is to protect the VA and the facility, and what was on the signs was, derogatory towards employees at the VA. I said, this is my First Amendment right. I said, you can't take these signs down. And she threatened to call the police. I said, call them. There's nothing they can do. It's out here on county property. So she called Bay Pines Police, and I guess then Bay Pines Police called the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office come out, and they said, you're not doing anything wrong. And that's been a change in Bay Pine tactics with me. All the protests that I've done and all the times I've stood out there with signs, they've never called the sheriff's office. The last two times I've been out there protesting and holding signs, they called the sheriff's office both times as an intimidation tactic or to try and run me off, whatever. But
okay,
that's what happened. That's what happened today.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at.
Well, wasn't there? Yeah. Go ahead, Rhonda. Go ahead.
You posted a story today about kids breaking his windows in his truck, and he chased them and shot into the truck.
Yeah, I posted that I think yesterday, and that's from a few years ago. But
okay.
I want to keep the stuff, the attention on him and his bad decisions. What that was is a group of high school kids from his daughter's high school had been a problem to him, or had broken stuff at his place before, and one night they broke a window on his pickup truck, and he ran outside with a .40 caliber Glock, and the car was already driving away. It was already part way down the road, and he fired off several shots, missed the car, but the bullet went through a neighbor's front window, and then through two interior walls and wound up embedded in the wall in a child's bedroom. Thankfully, nobody was hit, but when the deputy arrived, first thing he tells him is, it was a bunch of kids from my daughter's school. So when he fired that gun, he knew that was a carload of kids out, Granted, they did property damage, but you don't fire at a leaving vehicle because of property damage.
Right.
There's not too many communities that don't have a law against discharging a firearm within the city limits, too.
Exactly.
Well, it's the Bay Pines way. It got swept under the carpet.
Wow.
Nothing happened to him. And now, the way I've had people contact me through Bay Pines Exposed Facebook page, but I also wanted to mention that we have Bay Pines Exposed YouTube channel as well, where we put all the videos and everything. And right now there's over 70 videos up there. A lot of them are news segments. But when I was trying to organize protests and rallies outside of the VA, I really didn't get a very good turnout. So I decided to change tactics, and I go out there on my own. I had a huge sign made up. It's 6 foot by 5 foot sign with Director Clinker's picture on it, and it says, you know, make a difference, be a whistleblower, you can do it anonymously, call Steve Andrews, News Channel 8, and his number at the bottom. And I stand out there with that sign. And that is driving them crazy because people are starting to call.
Right.
I asked Steve Andrews, are you getting any leads and tips from the sign? And his response was, oh yeah. And just for instance, and you know what? And there's nothing they can do about it. I get out there in the morning and I hold the sign for all of the employees coming into work, the veterans coming into work, and then I get back out there in the afternoon and I stand there so they see it as they're leaving, you know. And
well, you have that one sign with the Assistant Chief of Police, Morales, I think his name is, you know, that you were speaking to, out of all the lawsuits that have been filed and settled, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I guess you're just raising all kinds of hell with that damn sign.
But he still has his job, you know.
Right.
So I mean, it just aggravating that somebody, you know. Hollywood has Harvey Weinstein, Bay Pines has Manuel Morales, you know, but it cost Harvey Weinstein his career, but Morales, he arrives to work every day with a badge, with a gun, and with arrest authority. You know, that shouldn't be.
Right.
I'm looking at your YouTube channel, and I just want to remind everybody, Bay Pines is the one that they had no heat. A veteran was left in a near vegetative state after they just ignored him. There's just so many stories out of Bay Pines. Every time I go on my Facebook, it looks like you're putting a news story up.
Well, the latest story that is going to infuriate people, a Vietnam veteran that was stationed on Guam, where they did dump Agent Orange, you know, and Blue Water Navy Association is working really hard to get those Blue Water Navy veterans recognized for Agent Orange exposure, because planes coming back or leaving, if they had problems, they dumped their load of Agent Orange into the water, and then, you know, the evaporators were using that to make water for the guys to drink.
Right.
But for years and years and years, this veteran had been going to Bay Pines and complaining about back pain and hip pain, and they told him he had arthritis and was throwing opioids at him. He would complain that pain's getting worse, more opioids. More pain, more opioids. The pain got so bad after I think 4 or 5 years of them treating him as it's arthritis. His wife said, "That's it. We're going to a civilian hospital and get you, reevaluated." Within a day, the doctor came in and basically told him, "You're dead. Too bad it wasn't caught earlier. You've got stage 4 cancer, and it has spread throughout your entire body. It went from the base of his skull all the way down his spinal cord and into his hips, but it is now metastasized and spread to all his organs." And they just could not believe that any hospital missed that. and called it arthritis. But that's what Bay Pines did. And then to add insult to injury, Bay Pines is refusing to pay for his diagnosis at the civilian hospital because he should have come there for treatment. So, I mean, what a slap in the face that is. But it just goes on and on.
On that note right there, we're going to have to take a break here. This is the Buchanan Report radio show. We're speaking with whistleblower Keith Hansford regarding the further corruption at Bay Pines VA Hospital. When we come back, we'll be coming back into our final segment, and we'll be getting to the issue that I want to talk to you about, Keith.
Sure.
The comment that you made on IM when we spoke briefly, et cetera, and it's beyond newsworthy. I want to get that out there. I think you know what I'm talking about. If not, I'm going to remind you in a minute here. We'll be back here in one moment. This is the Buchanan Report radio show. We're back with you. This is the Buchanan Report radio show, speaking with whistleblower Keith Hansford. You still there, Keith?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. The issue I want to get into is this. You were a dispatcher at Bay Pines, Bay Pines Police Department, and you had an opportunity to be a police officer there. You went through whatever you went through. They agreed to go ahead and take you on as a police officer, and then when it comes time for you to be a police officer, they put some strings on you. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Why don't you tell us what those strings are? Go ahead.
Yeah, I met all of OPM's requirements for police officer. Went to the oral board and background check and everything, and was offered the position, accepted the position. And then the chiefs called me down to the office to congratulate me on being selected for the police officer and told me what a great officer they knew I was going to be. Well, they were involved in this with this $300,000 Morales lawsuit and the $1.3 million lawsuit that involved all three of the chiefs, the two assistant chiefs and the chief. And they came right out and told me, hey, we know the officers talk to you, so we need you to spy on them and their attorney, find out what their strategy is, what they know, what they don't know, and report back to us. And I said, Chief, I can't do that. And he goes, oh, sure you can. I know they talk to you. I said, well, Chief, let me rephrase it. I won't do that. It's unethical. I'm just not going to do it. And within days, my police officer job was pulled, and it came down to the HR specialist said she was blown away. She said, I've never heard of anything like this. A instructor named Harry Brist out at the Little Rock VA Police Academy, it came down to, and now Harry Brist knows the three chiefs. It came down to him just saying, in his personal opinion, I wasn't qualified. And the job was gone.
Did you, outside of going to HR, did you do anything else about this?
Yeah, I filed an EEO case because my first two, I had been an EMS supervisor out there at Bay Pines for a lot of years, and then I had the opportunity to get into the police service and pursue through being a dispatcher my ultimate goal of being a police officer. And my first two performance appraisals as a dispatcher were as outstanding. After the after I refused to spy, it was like flipping a switch. I went from their reliable, rock solid dispatcher that was getting outstanding performance appraisals to them constantly screwing with me and, just hostile work environment like you wouldn't believe. I filed an EEO.
Were all three of them present when they requested you to do this? The chief of police and the two assistant chief of police. And,
no.
Who was it that specifically asked you to do it? Was it the chief of police that asked you to do it, or who was it?
No, it was the assistant chief, Morales. It was the assistant chief, but
Morales.
The way he worded it was, that we're involved in a lawsuit, and what we need you to do is, so he was including in his verbiage, he was including the other two, But the EEO investigation found that, you had ever-increasing hostile work environment, and they said it was a retaliation and reprisal on an ever-increasing frequency and severity. So they, the Chief Sjogren called me down to the office, and this is after my suspension. They suspended me for moving a camera to an area where it would do some good, watching officers walk BA-52s over, from an area that at night it has no nighttime capabilities, and the parking lot is dark, so it was just a black screen unless I moved it over there, and I did that virtually every night. Then I bought a motorized bike, and I knew where I put that camera at night, so I put the bike in the view of that camera. Well, they were searching for something to get me with. A veteran came on property and killed himself out by the flagpole, and they charged me with 3 counts of moving the camera, even though other dispatchers said they backed it up the whole 30 days and saw that's where you normally put the camera for officer safety, for veteran safety, and they just had to cherry pick the 3 days my bike was there. The union vice president was present when they were doing the questioning of me, and she caught them writing down fake answers to my questions. And then when they put my disciplinary packet forward, they reverted back to the fake answers, and in the typed area at the bottom of the form, where it was typed with Keith Hansford's confirmation signature for me to review and sign, the supervisor signed in my place and put in parentheses that my signature wasn't necessary because a union person had been present. Well, it was the union person that caught them falsifying my answers.
So what happened for them doing all of this?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I got suspended, and then when I told the chief I would drop the EEO case if, he offered if I dropped the EEO case, things could go back to the way they were. And I said, yeah, I just want my career back. So I dropped the EEO case, and as quickly as the harassment started, the harassment stopped. So it wasn't performance-based. It was them retaliating against me. A nurse manager knew me when I was an EMS supervisor, and she came to me one night in the police communications center and said that a new program that they had started to limit the number of FTEs, full-time employees, they were going to merge the telephone operator suite and the dispatchers together and have them kind of rotate doing each other's jobs. And we all voiced, all the dispatchers and all the operators voiced, serious concerns about that because the jobs aren't even remotely similar. So she came to me and told me about 5 instances where the fill-in operator that supposedly had been fully trained didn't know who to call in when they were calling in after-hour stat surgical teams. And that was leading to patients laying on the operating table in the operating room for, an hour, hour and a half at a time because not everybody on the surgical team was called in. And in one case, they had requested, the surgeon on duty had requested a radiologist on call be called, and the operator that was filling in for this ill-advised program didn't know who the radiologist on call was, and instead of asking for help, he just plodded around trying to find it. And I've got an email that the surgeon on duty's opinion was if the radiologist had been called, because several hours went by before the surgeon made the call to take this guy into surgery and open him up. But the email states that if the radiologist on call had been, called when requested, this guy would not have needed to be opened up, and they removed 4 feet of his intestine. All he would have needed was a barium enema. So I took that information to the Chief Sjogren, told him about it. His comment was, well, we know you're not a fan of the merge, but we'll look into it. I waited a week. They had not made any inquiries about it, so I took that information and went to my old EMS chief, and he took me to Debbie Bailey, which was the director's assistant, Director Klinker, and she took me to Director Klinker, and I gave Director Klinker the logs, which had, that's the other thing, the police supervisor that had made the mistakes, he had falsified the logs in an attempt to cover them up, but they were documented other places like the AOD log and in the surgeon's log. And I told her, it had the dates, times, the patients involved, everything. And at the bottom of the email said, that I expected to be retaliated against for bringing this patient safety issue to her attention. And she asked why I felt that way, and I said, because it's happened to me before. I've seen it happen to others out here at Bay Pines, and it will happen. And she said, if that happens, you let me know, and I'll put a stop to it. I left there feeling good. 2 days later, the VA police had me up on charges for removing documents from Bay Pines property, which I did not do. I had printed them out to give to the chief. I gave the chief a copy. I put another copy in my locker and took it to Klinker when the chief didn't act. So I'd had enough. I just couldn't take any more of the constant poking and harassment. So I knew where this was going. They went, I'd never had any disciplinary action before, and they went straight to suspension. So this time they were going to try and fire me. So with the words of Director Klinker ringing in my ears, if that happens, you let me know and I'll put a stop to it, I started walking my resignation paperwork through, and Debbie Bailey went to Klinker and told her that the retaliation that I had predicted was happening and that I was resigning because of it. And Debbie Bailey left me a voicemail on my answering machine that I still have, that she took her glasses off, Klinker took her glasses off and said, well, I hate to lose a good employee. Put her glasses back on and went back to what she was doing. So you know, she's a major part of the problem. She needs to go. But that's how Bay Pines operates. If you are a whistleblower or you go against the you know, whatever corrupt or bad practice that they're doing, they will retaliate against you. They'll come after you, and what they do is they make an example of you to keep others quiet. That's why this sign is making them crazy, because the sign,
as you know,
I've
been dealing with Rob O'Neill and everything that he's gone through, and we've got tons of information and documentation and all that. Look, we're running out of time here. This is just amazing. I mean, I hear this stuff, and it just keeps going on and on and on, and it's the same players. Nothing is happening to them, and actual laws are being broken. You know, it's just amazing to me. Let's get that information out as to your Facebook page, where you know you're putting stuff up. Like Rhonda said, there's like about 70, I think, or you said it's like 70 videos up there and all of that. I'd appreciate it if you keep me dialed in, and as things come up, etc. I'd love to have you on, because need to shine the light on the cockroaches here, you know, among other things that we're doing. So that would be great. And the YouTube and the YouTube is Bay Pines Exposed, and then the Facebook page is Bay Pines Exposed as well. So maybe next time we're on, because I've been fielding a lot of questions from people on how am I doing this? How am I getting such results and getting scrutiny put on them? So we can discuss that. One thing I want to put out real quickly that I think is very, very important. The problem with the VA is they love sycophants. If you're a sycophant, you will move up through the ranks. In Loma Linda, California, their brand new police chief was a captain that was a sycophant and moved right up the ranks at Bay Pines, and they highly recommended him for the chief position in Loma Linda. Then he got up, like a year later, his assistant chief left, so his new assistant chief at Loma Linda, California, VA, is a guy named Fernando Olivas. Now, he is assistant chief of Bay Pines, or of VA police out there in California, and he has a total. He was a rookie officer. He has a total of about 6 years law enforcement experience. Now, you can't tell me that an assistant chief position out in Loma Linda, California, out of all the applicants that probably applied for that assistant police chief position, there wasn't somebody that was more qualified. And a year or so before he got promoted to assistant chief, he made an arrest for a guy selling his opioids on base. He broke Police 101. He handcuffed the guy in front, put his backpack, took him in a conference room, put his backpack with all his pills and everything in it in the conference room with him handcuffed in the front, and left him in the conference room by himself. The guy opened his backpack and downed all his opioids and overdosed. He was in a coma for 3 weeks, and this is the caliber. And nothing was done to Olivas for, breaking all these protocols and him overdosing. And this is the caliber person that they now have as assistant chief at Loma Linda. I mean, it's got to stop. Yeah. I'd also like to throw out to you, as well as any other whistleblowers that I would be interested in talking to any other whistleblowers there out of, whether it be Bay Pines or another facility. We got to get the light shined on all of this. I want to thank you, Keith, for coming on. Horrendous. I just can't believe that people would do this and still have their jobs. It's absolutely nuts. But
well, you know what, we have people from Bay Pines contact us on IM, and they have stories, but they're terrified to lose their job to tell them. And we find all the time and kick them off the site, Bay Pines trolls, union people and administrative people and all. But
well, here's the bottom line. I'd love to have whistleblowers that are like yourself and Rob O'Neill and others that come up and, willing to, state their name, etc. If they want to stay anonymous, that would be fine too, but they'll have to not be anonymous with us, and we would have to verify, what they would be speaking to. So that's available as well. But
me being a whistleblower. Me being a whistleblower came at a very high price. I lost my career that I had over 10 years invested in. When I left there, I didn't take any medications. I'm now on 8 medications, including Prozac. I have a service dog, and I've been seeing a psychiatrist or psychologist since 2011, and it's all because of their relentless harassment of me. But you know what? If I can get it changed, it'll suck, but it'll be worth it.
Well, stay in touch. Keep us informed as to all the new things going on. And again, any other whistleblowers that would love to talk to them. That's it. I got to stick you in the blue room, Keith, while we sign off. But again, thanks a million for coming on and getting the word out there. I really appreciate it. All right, we've got him in the blue room here. Amazing. When I was talking to him the other day, on IM, he shut that, little blurb at me, and I was like, what? Every time you turn around, just something going on out of there, either something to do with the police or, patients not being dealt with properly, and, just the lies that they tell to people and the lies that change. They're breaking laws. Why isn't something being done about this? It's just nuts. Craziness. Okay. Rhonda, Ron, anything else?
Yeah, I'm on looking at my email. Do you know Facebook, everybody gets blocked? I actually got to post today and I didn't get blocked. They deleted, it's called Peter, the PTSD Awareness Penguin. They had 246,000 people on their page, and Facebook deleted it.
Really?
Yeah. So now they are working
I guess
to get it back up.
Facebook doesn't really want to be social anymore then, huh?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
Well.
So go to MeWe.
Oh, I knew you were going to do it. Anyway, it's just like Facebook, only not as restrictive. They're building. They've been around, about 5 or 6 years, I think. And
oh, yeah.
And there are some, there are quite a few veterans groups that are on MeWe. It's MEWE, and, they're obviously not as large, as Facebook, but they are growing. One particular group's got over 2,000, and all of that. But there's some good groups in there. Go in, check it out. Join.
And their messaging program is secure. It's, you know, how we all don't want to use Facebook Messenger because we know that they are watching everything we do and it's not secure, but we have no other replacement program for it, so we still use it. Well, MeWe is secure, so.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay,
That's
Ron,
all I had.
you there?
Did we lose him?
I don't know. I see him on there, but he ain't saying nothing. Must be a hell of a hockey game going on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it. Like to again thank Keith Hansford, Whistleblower, for Bay Pines VA Hospital. Great interview. A lot of information. I had no clue as to what was going on there. Big thank you to Keith again for coming on.
Hello.
Yeah. There you are.
Well, you're on. You got anything to add? Because we're getting ready to sign off.
Just all warm and cuddly here and managed to mute my phone. Yeah, I'd like to thank Keith for coming on. I mean, every time we get into Bay Pines, it seems like there's more and more and more. It really makes you wonder. All right, I do have a quote for tonight. It goes like this: humor is just another defense against the universe. Yeah, that comes from our good buddy Mel Brooks.
Yeah, it sounds
I got
like
one for you.
Okay.
I got one for you. You know what one butt cheek said to the other?
Uh-oh.
You know, if we stick together, we could stop this shit. Yeah, okay.